If you enjoy the content on this channel, please like and subscribe. Napoleon is a 2023 epic historical drama film directed and produced by Ridley Scott and written by David Scarpa, based on the story of Napoleon Bonaparte and primarily depicting his rise to power, as well as his relationship with his wife, Joséphine Bonaparte. It stars Joaquin Phoenix as Napoleon and Vanessa Kirby as Joséphine. In addition to writer David Scarpa, frequent Scott collaborators including cinematographer Dariusz Wolski and editor Claire Simpson also worked on the project. Napoleon premiered in Paris on November 14, 2023 and was released in the United States and United Kingdom on November 22, 2023 by Sony Pictures, releasing before streaming on Apple TV Plus at a later date. The film grossed $219 million worldwide against a $200 million budget and received mixed reviews from critics, with praise for battle sequences and performances, though it was criticized for its historical inaccuracies. At the 96th Academy Awards, the film received nominations for Best Production Design, Best Costume Design and Best Visual Effects. After filming wrapped up on Ridley Scott's previous film, The Last Duel, Scott announced Napoleon would be his next project, originally called Kitbag. The film's working title was derived from the saying that there is a general staff hidden in every soldier's kitbag. During the same year, Scott also consulted with the University of Oxford scholar Michael Brewers regarding Napoleon's life, particularly collaborating with him deconstructing the geography of the Battle of Waterloo. He also received Stanley Kubrick's script for his planned Napoleon film, which never materialized. Lead writer on the film, Scarpa, who initially stated he had high school basic knowledge of Napoleon's life, conducted research regarding Napoleon, and after realizing that writing a film encompassing his entire life would be impractical, he decided to focus on Napoleon's relationship with Joséphine. He would also take inspiration from Ridley Scott's The Duelist in 1977 and Milos Forman's Amadeus in 1984, wanting to portray Napoleon as an irreverent figure similar to how Mozart was depicted in Amadeus, and told Scott he envisioned Napoleon as being competent in the realm of battle and incompetent in the realm of love. Scott proposed the idea of the beginning of the film with Marie Antoinette being under the guillotine, wanting to focus on the ambivalence about where democracy leads. The film also reunites Joaquin Phoenix and Ridley Scott from their previous collaboration, Gladiator, in 2000. Scott said he was blown away by Phoenix's performance in The Joker in 2019 and concluded that Phoenix could be an amazing asset for Napoleon, both creatively and commercially. The Last Duel actress Jodie Comer was reportedly Scott's first choice to play Joséphine. She would say, "I jumped at the chance to work with Ridley and his team again, and the idea of working with Joaquin, who's someone I hugely admire. I'm so excited to delve into that world." Unfortunately, on January 4, 2022, Comer revealed her departure from the film due to scheduling conflicts caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Vanessa Kirby was then announced to replace her later that day. Many critics of the film's historical aspects, including historians Adam Tooze and Andrew Roberts, believed it ignored Napoleon's numerous non-military achievements, as well as his popularity with the French people. Roberts, a Napoleon biographer, said his portrayal as a proto-Hitler was as tired as it was absurd. Historian Zach White agreed, saying the film mirrored contemporary British propaganda denigrating Napoleon as a Corsican ruffian. Eileen Stein wrote for Slate, pointing out that Napoleon was known for his passion for literature and Enlightenment thought, a far cry from the boorish, loutish soldier that Scott depicts. French historian Patrice Golonefi called the movie anti-French and full of historical inaccuracies, while fellow historian Roman Malachi found that the portrayal of Napoleon lackluster and mediocre, while disregarding Napoleon's positive legacies such as the Napoleonic Code. Spanish historian Francesco Gracia Alonso called the film a crime. Contrary to the film, Napoleon did not attend the execution of Marie Antoinette, as he was commanding forces at Toulon at the time. The movie additionally depicts a defeated Napoleon meeting Wellington, whereas in actuality the two men never met. Oxford historian Michael Brewers, who worked on the movie, noted several inaccuracies in Napoleon and Josephine's relationship, including the timing of the divorce, 1809, not 1807. In Nature, Napoleon did not slap Joséphine during their divorce, and his rationale that Joséphine is portrayed as encouraging the divorce, whereas in reality she was fearful of it. The historical Joséphine also died the day before Napoleon's exile to Elba, not a year later during the 100 Days, and thus was not a factor in Napoleon's return. The film also presents Napoleon firing at the pyramids of Giza, which never happened. Cairo Egyptologist Samila Ikram pointed out that Napoleon held the Sphinx and the pyramids in high esteem and used them as motivation for his troops. Scott defended the depiction of the attack on the pyramids as being a fast way of saying Napoleon took Egypt. Major events of Napoleon's reign, such as the Peninsular War, the Saint Dominique Expedition, the Austrian Campaign of 1809, and the campaigns of 1813 and 1814, are entirely omitted. The film's depiction of the Battle of Waterloo silences the roles of the Dutch and German armies. Napoleon's field marshals also played a key role in his campaigns, and they're almost absent from the movie. Many noted that the one battle that the film really now does show in full detail is the Battle of Austerlitz. They noted that the ambush on the ice is said to be a myth from the Austerlitz campaign. Now, Napoleon, an artillery officer by training, never personally led a cavalry charge, as is shown at Borodino and Waterloo. Franz Stefan Grady, writing for Foreign Policy, described the battle sequences as a Hollywood mishmash of medieval melees, meaningless commandos, and World War I style infantry advances. He would say, for all of Scott's fixation on Napoleon's battles, he seems curiously disinterested in how the real Napoleon actually fought them. Scott dismissed criticisms of the film's historical inaccuracies. Napoleon dies then, 10 years later someone writes a book, then someone takes that book and writes another, and so 400 years later there are a lot of imagination in history books. When I have issues with historians, I ask, "Excuse me, mate, were you actually there? Well then shut the hell up then," Scott would aggressively say. Scott also declared, responding to French critics, that the French don't even like themselves. Some interesting trivia notes. While never directly addressed, the black French general who appears in several scenes, played by actor Aboubacar Salim, is credited as General Dumas. This was a real figure of Thomas Alexander Dumas, a biracial general who commanded troops during the Napoleonic Wars and was the father of writer Alexander Dumas, a brilliant tactician in his own right, who was nicknamed the Black Devil by his contemporary revolutionaries. Scott said he kept the film to 2.5 hours, as that the average cinema goer could only concentrate for that long. He said there is a 4 hours director's cut, which will be released on Apple TV+. Joséphine is the direct ancestor of 5 current royal families in Europe, including the monarchies of Sweden, Denmark, Norway and Belgium, and the Grand Duke of Luxembourg. She is often referred to as the grandmother of Europe. Despite the advertising for the movie He Came From Nothing, Napoleon was born on the island of Corsica into a family descending from Italian minor nobility. Arthur Wellesley, commonly known as the Duke of Wellington, led 57 battles with 37 victories. All of his defeats were at the hands of the French, and often the Duke lost when his armies were greatly numerically superior to that of the French. Napoleon led 81 battles with 70 victories, with every single defeat being a battle where his army had been heavily outnumbered. Napoleon never lost a battle where his and his enemies' troops were evenly numbered. The Duke of Wellington did not have an upper-class English accent as depicted in the movie, but was in fact born and grew up in Dublin and had a thick Irish accent. In the film, Napoleon learns of Josephine's death from Josephine's daughter and his stepdaughter, Hortense. Hortense was also Napoleon's sister-in-law, marrying Napoleon's brother, Louis. She became Queen of Holland during the French occupation and birthed a son, Louis Napoleon, in 1808. Louis Napoleon would later go on to become President of France in 1848 and later Emperor Napoleon III in 1852. Now, this was a film I was really looking forward to. I'm a big history fan and have really taken the time to really understand what a complicated, nuanced, tyrannical, yet pure genius Napoleon was. Napoleon's life is one of many complexities. He was a man who came from a middling nobility family in Corsica. French was only his second language, and yet through his pure brilliance, ingenuity, and dedication, he managed to rise to become Emperor of France. Napoleon was a mathematician. He understood trigonometry perfectly, hence the reason his artillery tactics were so groundbreaking. He developed the Napoleonic Code, wrote love letters to Joséphine, even wrote once a romantic novel, and was a very sophisticated man. Though this portrayal in the film, you would never know that. I think one of my biggest problems with this film has to be the casting here of Joaquin Phoenix. Phoenix is a superb actor, but he's also a very offbeat actor. He's generally good at playing either the villain or playing very sort of wacky, strange, enigmatic people with complicated pasts. Now look, I don't know who Napoleon was, and neither does anybody alive today, but I just somehow feel that this film doesn't capture the essence that made Napoleon the great leader and general that he was. There must have been a great charisma to this man, a great panache, if you will, that he could get the whole of France to follow him into so many battles, become emperor, and lead France to conquer most of Western Europe. Instead, this film portrays him as a ruffian, a strange little man who had strange quirks and eccentricities. I think one aspect the film does get right is the portrayal of his relationship here with Joséphine. There's little details that I've come to realize were actually true. Although this is a man that was deeply in love with Joséphine. Yes, he had affairs and eventually had to have a child by another woman in order to have an heir, but his true love of his life was always Joséphine, and I do feel the film captures that aspect, at least that part, right anyway. Vanessa Kirby is really good here as Joséphine, but it's also a role that she doesn't really get to sink her teeth into. Fundamentally here, I blame the attitude of Ridley Scott. Scott is a fantastic filmmaker. In fact, I even liked the film The Last Duel, but this one, I really feel he misses the beat. And the mere fact that he's got this attitude of saying the French don't like themselves and the historians don't know what they were actually talking about is exactly why this film is not what it could have been. He doesn't respect and want to understand Napoleon's real life. In fact, a 2.5-hour movie about this man's life is just not good enough. It's too short, it was too complicated, too many aspects they leave out. This would be a far better television series, with someone at the helm that really respected, understood, and loved the real history. Instead, here we have a big blockbuster film with a strange, enigmatic actor who is talented, but not as a leading man in this type of role. And look, I completely understand Hollywood likes to dramatize things, and they can't follow the historical accuracies right down to the very letter. But my goodness, creating some of the stories that Ridley Scott creates in this film is just downright offensive. The film, though, has got wonderful battle sequences, and they really are captivating. The costumes are delightful, as well as the cinematography and set designs. There's many aspects to this film that you could like, but there's also a sort of arrogance in the way it was made and put forward. And this is a film that I was expecting so much from, and just feels somewhat disappointing, and really leaves you wanting more, and will provide you with a strange, twisted view on Napoleon's rather complicated existence. By no means was Napoleon a hero, but he was a fascinating historical figure, and he deserves a story to be told properly about his enigmatic, nuanced, and layered life. With its fantastic set designs, costumes, and cinematography, but lackluster casting, strange performance from Phoenix, and overall arrogant directing from Ridley Scott, Napoleon gets a 6 out of 10.